Good midnight, night owls. It's Jacob on Midnight FM. Tonight's story doesn't come from a letter or a roadside coffee shop. It started right here, inside this room where I'm sitting now, under these same lights with this same mic. It began with a cardboard box. No return address, no note. Just my name written in a thin, nervous hand. R.J. Jacob, for broadcast. Inside were 7 cassette tapes, each numbered in ballpoint. I don't get many cassettes anymore. Folks send links, drives, DMs. But the weight of those tapes felt like something finished, like someone had closed a door on them and sent the door to me. I waited until after the show to listen. The station empties out around 1 a.m. The vending machine hums, the hallway clock ticks too loud, and the red on-air light feels like the only heartbeat left in the building. I slid tape 1 into an old deck, pressed play, and leaned back. A woman's voice, soft, careful, like she was afraid of cracking the air, filled my headphones. She didn't say her name. She talked about washing cups, saving rubber bands, her husband's whistle on the stairs. Then, one night, he didn't come home. It was ordinary, and it hurt. At the 3-minute mark, she went quiet. Then, barely there, the sound of footsteps. 4 of them. Slow, certain. Then, a click, like a latch. Then silence. I thought it was house noise from wherever she recorded, until tape 2. Tape 2 was a man talking about an elevator with a missing 5th floor. He said sometimes the doors opened anyway to a hallway that smelled of oranges and dust. Then silence, footsteps, and a soft door close. By tape 3, I'd stopped pretending it was coincidence. Each story ended the same. Silence, steps, door. The footsteps didn't echo like apartments or basements. They sounded short and flat, the way they do in a small padded room. A room like this one. By tape 4, I was nervous enough to keep a notebook. The storyteller that time was a man describing the sea breathing, not waves, but breath. When he said it inhales every boat and gives back only the ones that promise to behave, I almost smiled. Until those same footsteps came again, louder now. When the door closed, something metal jingled. Keys, maybe. I glanced at my studio key hook. 3 keys, still hanging. But the sound matched exactly. I kept going. Tape 5 was the same woman from tape 1. Her voice shook. I woke up, she whispered, and someone was standing at the foot of my bed. Silence. If I don't move, it will forget I'm here. When the door closed this time, the sound was heavy. Too heavy. I started checking everything. Deck alignment, tape heads, wall panels, all normal. Until I noticed something. Under the carpet near the bass trap, a faint seam, like wood pressed over something older. When I lifted the edge, I found a brass latch plate. There's no door there. Not in the plans, not in the stories, not in the blueprints I tell to keep sane. But the floor thought otherwise. I pressed my ear to the seam. The wood was cold. Then I heard it, faint, like someone standing up from a chair. I rolled the carpet back, sat down, tried to laugh at myself. But the on-air light flickered once. Not a glitch, more like acknowledgement. So I played the final one, tape 7. No name, just my voice. It said, "Good midnight." I froze. If you're hearing this, then you finally followed the footsteps. That's good. That's how rooms meet. Then 4 steps, the ring of keys, and the door closing, but not at the end of the tape. Midway through, the reels kept spinning. A single knock echoed through the wall. 3 taps, exactly where the brass plate was. I lifted the panel. The plywood creaked, and a breath of cold air slid up my arm. Beneath it, a hatch. Beneath that, a dark square, a passageway that shouldn't exist. And from inside, faint but clear, came my own recorded voice whispering, "Jacob." Open the door at the end of the recording. I stared at the hatch. My fingers trembled. I opened it. The on-air light glowed bright red, flooding the room like a pulse. I leaned down. Wooden steps descended into the dark. I heard 4 footsteps answer mine from below. "Good midnight," I whispered, and started down. The first step down felt wrong. Not because it creaked. Everything creaks. But because the sound didn't echo like wood. It echoed like tape. That dull, magnetic hiss that swells just before a recording starts. I held the rail, or what should have been a rail. My hand met air, then something colder than air. It felt like touching the back of a TV when it's off, but still humming. The second step down hummed too. When my foot reached the third, I realized what the sound really was. Breathing. Slow, in rhythm with the light above me that pulsed faintly through the floorboards. At the 4th step, I heard my own voice, faint, distorted, not from behind, not from in front, but around me. "Jacob, stop listening." I froze. The cassette deck upstairs still whirred softly. I could hear the reel spinning, the small click of the capstan, like a heartbeat remembering itself. When I turned my flashlight on, the beam caught the wall at the bottom of the stairs. It wasn't concrete or insulation. It was foam paneling. The same kind we use in the studio. The same color. The same layout. My stomach dropped. It was an identical copy of my room. Was there, the mic, the desk, the on-air light, dim now, flickering like a memory. Even the same cup of coffee on the table, half drunk, and cold. But this wasn't reflection. It wasn't a mirror. The room was physically there. I stepped inside. My foot left a print in the carpet, dust fine and pale like powder off old film reels. On the console sat a tape deck, the same model as mine, and inside it a cassette labeled in handwriting I recognized, R.J. Jacob, Session 8. I hadn't made 8. I'd only received 7. I touched the eject button. The deck obeyed with a sigh. The cassette slid out, warm, like it had been running for hours. The label was written over another label, one scratched out so violently it had torn the paper. Underneath, through the slashes, I could still read the name, Melissa Kay, the woman from tape 1. I slotted the cassette back in and pressed play. Silence, then breathing, then a voice. Not Melissa's, mine. Good midnight, night owls. My mouth went dry. I heard myself introduce Midnight FM, heard the same laugh, the same breath pauses, even the same cup clink. But the words weren't from any episode I'd done. Tonight's broadcast isn't for the living audience. It's for those who listen between frequencies. The static deepened, like something exhaling inside the machine. You opened the door. Now they can find their way back. The mic in front of me, this mic in this mirrored room, clicked on by itself. The red LED glowed, bright and steady. The VU meter rose. I wasn't touching it. Then, from the corner of the room, behind the foam panels, came the first footstep. Soft, bare, close. I turned the flashlight. The beam landed on the wall. The foam pulsed just slightly, as if air was being breathed in from behind it. Another step. Then a handprint pressed through the panel from the other side, flat, wide, pale, trembling slightly as it dragged down. I staggered back, tripping over a chair. The mic caught the sound, echoed it in real time. The delay was gone. What I heard in the headphones wasn't playback, it was live. The hand pressed harder, the foam stretched. Jacob, my voice whispered from the speakers, you have to finish the story. I yanked the power strip from the wall. The sound didn't stop. Every device in the room, the deck, the monitors, the light, stayed alive. Then another voice joined in, right beside my ear. He's still waiting down here. The air turned cold enough to fog. I backed toward the stairs, fumbling for the hatch. It was gone. The ceiling above me was smooth now. No opening, no seam, just foam. Something moved on the opposite side of the console, the faint shadow of a man standing, head tilted slightly, the way people do when they're deciding whether to smile or speak. I could hear his breathing. It wasn't synced with mine. "Who are you?" I asked. The shadow leaned closer, enough for the light to catch the edges of a face, half my features, half static blur, like someone had drawn me from memory with a shaking hand. "I'm what you leave behind every night," he said. "The part of you that keeps talking after you stop recording." The voice wasn't through the speakers. It was inside the headset. He stepped forward, and the carpet didn't make a sound. The on-air sign above the door flickered back to life, not red, but white, too bright to look at. The shadow moved toward it, touched the door handle, and turned it. The door opened outward into pure black. And from that black, the footsteps came again. 4 of them, slow, careful, climbing up this time, up toward my studio. I looked down at the tape deck. The reels had stopped turning, but the counter kept ticking upward anyway. On the display, new numbers appeared. Coordinates, not timestamps. The last line read, "Studio A, live." I ran to the wall where the on-air sign burned white, pressed my hand against it. It felt warm. Behind it, faint as a heartbeat, came the sound of my own show still broadcasting, my own voice saying words I hadn't said yet. "Good midnight, night owls. Tonight's show is special." The shadow stepped through the door. He passed me without touching, but the air bent around him. For a moment, I smelled dust and coffee, my coffee. Then he was gone, up the stairs, into my world. The lights flickered, the mic popped, and the voice from the monitor whispered one last time, "He's gone to finish your recording." I looked up at the ceiling. Through the foam above me, I could hear the faint sound of footsteps crossing my real studio floor. And then, my voice, distant but alive, saying, "Good midnight, night owls. Tonight's show is special." I stood there for what felt like forever, staring up at the ceiling that used to be my floor. The footsteps above had stopped. The faint hum of the studio equipment pressed down like a heartbeat through the wood. And then I heard myself talking. "Good midnight, night owls. Tonight's show is special." My voice, steady, calm, professional, coming from upstairs, live. But I was down here. I ran to the stairs, pounding against the boards that sealed me under. The sound was soft, dull, like knocking through a blanket. Above me, the broadcast continued. My voice told a story about a box of old cassettes and a hidden door under the floor. Every line matched what I'd already said tonight, word for word. A woman's voice, a man with an elevator, footsteps, a door. Each word echoed down through the wood, chasing its own ghost. I shouted, "Stop!" but my voice didn't carry. What answered wasn't me. It was a whisper right behind my ear. "You're the replay." The lights flickered. The on-air sign above the door turned red again, pulsing like a pulse. Something moved in the corner, a shape, tall and thin, built out of static and breath. Its outline shimmered, not with light, but with sound. Every movement hissed like tape on spooling. And when it stepped toward me, I realized what I was seeing. The figure was made entirely of recordings, layers of sound waves shaped into a person. Every step released faint whispers, voices of all those people from the cassettes: Melissa, the elevator man, the girl with the brush, the teacher by the sea. Their words overlapped into one phrase over and over: "Let us out. Let us out." I stumbled back against the console. The tape deck lit up again, reels spinning backwards this time. On the display, my name flickered: R.J. Jacob, Live Archive. And through the speakers came the sound of my own breath, heavy, scared, just like now. Then a new voice, flat, unhurried, the one I'd heard on tape 7. "You opened the door. Now you keep it open." The air pressure changed. I felt it in my chest, in my teeth. A high, shrill feedback filled the room, building higher, sharper, until the walls themselves seemed to vibrate. I clamped my hands over my ears, but the sound wasn't outside anymore. It was inside my head. The foam panels started peeling off the walls one by one. Behind them wasn't brick or insulation. It was tape. Miles of magnetic tape looping endlessly through reels sunk into the wall. And on every loop, my voice. Hundreds of recordings, all slightly different. One shouting, one laughing, one whispering, one begging to stop. Each voice overlapped the next until the room sounded like a crowd made entirely of me. Good midnight. Good midnight. Good midnight. Over and over.
Then, from behind me, a faint click. The same sound the tapes always ended with, the door latch. I turned slowly. The hatch I'd come through was open again, but this time light poured down from above, soft, flickering red, like the glow of the on-air sign filtered through fog. And standing there at the top of the stairs was me. Or the other me. He wore my headphones, held my mic. His mouth moved exactly in sync with the broadcast above. Tonight's story is about the moment a man realizes he's already recorded his ending. He looked straight at me. His smile was calm, professional. Then he said, "Don't worry, Jacob. You'll sound perfect." He reached up and turned off the on-air switch. The light went out. Everything fell silent. For a few seconds, the only thing left was the smell of dust and tape. Then a faint scratching from the deck beside me, a tape rewinding. The reel stopped, a click, and then playback. Good midnight, night owls. This is R.J. Jacob, and tonight's story is called The Door at the End of the Recording. The realization hit me like cold air. This broadcast, the one the listeners were hearing right now, wasn't live. It was this. It was what I was living. I'd been speaking from inside the tape. I ran for the stairs, but the steps folded under me like film burning in a projector. The room stretched, warped, reversed, and I was standing back at my desk again. Same chair, same mic, same light. Only now the deck was still recording, reels turning silently. The red light blinked. The tape label said Session 9. The phone on my desk buzzed. Caller ID, private number. I picked up. Static first. Then a whispering voice, mine again, distant. "They're listening, Jacob. Don't hang up." Then the faint sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, walking across the floor above me. "Do you hear it?" the voice asked. "That's your next story starting." I whispered, "Who are you?" The line crackled and the voice said, "You're the echo now. Keep the door open." The call ended. The deck clicked. The tape stopped, and on the counter screen a message appeared. End of recording. Only it didn't eject. The reels started spinning again, backward. From the speakers came the faint sound of a door closing, then footsteps. 4. Then my own voice, smaller now, far away. "Good midnight." And after that, nothing but the sound of the tape breathing. Good midnight, night owls. If you can still hear me, maybe that means the signal made it through. Maybe it means I made it through. Or maybe this is just another recording, one you'll hear again someday when the footsteps reach your side of the wall. If you ever find a tape marked with my name, don't play it. Just don't. Because every time someone listens, the door opens a little wider. And one night, it won't close. This is RJ Jacob signing off from Midnight FM. Sleep well, and if you hear footsteps at the end of your recording, don't answer. Good midnight.